Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little different today.
Yeah, this one's a bit of a mix.
It is usually, we take one book, maybe one specific philosophy or a historical event, and we just tear it apart layer by layer.
Mm-hmm.
But today, we are staring down this massive stack of really disparate sources. I mean, I'm looking at papers from urologists, protocols from formulation scientists. I've got notes from meditation teachers, hard data from biochemists. It's all over the place.
It's a bit of a Frankenstein's monster today, isn't it?
It really is. But when you step back and you look at the whole stack, there is a very clear theme emerging. It's all about, well, optimization.
Right, but you have to be so careful with that word.
I know. I want to be careful because usually when people say optimization in the wellness space, they just mean drink more water or take a multivitamin. It feels very soft.
Right, this is definitely not the generic eat less, move more variety of advice we've all heard a million times.
No, not at all. The mission here was to sift through all of this noise to find what we're calling the biological cheat codes.
I like that. Cheat codes.
Yeah. We wanted to find the specific and sometimes really counterintuitive mechanisms that control how we age, how we think, and how we recover.
And counterintuitive is the perfect word for it. Almost everything we are going to talk about today flips a standard narrative completely on its head.
It's true.
We're finding that the things we all thought were healthy might actually be stalling our progress. And the things that, seemed dangerous or just plain weird might actually be the keys to longevity.
I mean, just to give you a taste of what's coming, we found research suggesting that healthy fats, the olive oil we've been told for decades to drown our salads in for heart health, that might be the single biggest reason people can't lose weight.
Oh, that's going to upset the Mediterranean diet crowd for sure.
No question.
But the math doesn't lie. The physics of it's undeniable.
And we're going to talk about why putting ice on a sprained ankle, something I have done since I was 6 years old playing soccer, is actually preventing you from healing.
That one completely changes how we look at inflammation. It turns out we've been stopping the repair crew at the door this whole time.
It's wild. And then there's this really, really sobering look at a specific window in a child's life, specifically for young girls, that determines whether they break a hip 30 years down the line.
And the scary part, the really scary part, is that once that window closes, it is closed for good. You can't supplement your way out of it later in life.
Not at all. So you're going to want to stick around. We're going from the dinner plate to the gym and then deep into the brain. Let's start with section 1, rethinking fuel.
Let's do it.
And we have to start with this idea, this healthy fat trap. This comes from sources involving Light Watkins and Max Lugavere.
This is a tough one for people to digest, pun intended, because we have spent the last 10, maybe 15 years demonizing sugar and deifying fat. Keto, paleo, even the carnivore trends to some extent, they've all created this health halo around fats. We think, oh, if it's an avocado, it's basically free calories.
I am so guilty of this. So guilty.
Yeah.
I see healthy fats on a label, nuts, olive oil, seeds, and my brain just registers it as good for me.
Yeah.
Period. So I don't measure it. I just pour.
And that is the trap. Biology is, at its core, a math problem involving energy. It really is. And Light Watkins did this fascinating personal experiment that just highlights this perfectly.
Okay, so what was his story?
He was trying to lean out, get his body fat down, and he was following all the right advice, low-carb, healthy fats, but he was just stuck at around 22% body fat. He couldn't budge the needle.
And he realized he was falling victim to what he calls incidental calories.
Exactly. Incidental. They don't feel like a meal, so they don't count in our heads. He realized that while he was being so careful cutting sugar, he was consuming a massive amount of energy from these so-called healthy fats.
He specifically calls out the Costco pistachio problem.
He does, and it's so relatable.
Oh, I know this problem intimately. You buy that giant 3-pound bag of pistachios because they are quote-unquote healthy.
Right. The bag is practically the size of a pillow, and every time you walk by the kitchen, you just grab a handful. You aren't eating a meal, you're just snacking.
But a handful of nuts is easily, 300 calories?
At least. Do that 3 times a day, and you've eaten an entire extra meal without even realizing it, without ever sitting down at a table.
And he was free pouring olive oil, too, wasn't he?
That's the other silent killer of fat loss. A single tablespoon of oil is about 120 calories. If you do a 3-second pour into the pan, which most people do.
Oh, yeah, you just glug it in there.
You could be looking at 400 calories before you even add the food. So Light decided to stop guessing and look at the caloric density.
Right. The physics of it.
Fat is the most dense energy source we can eat. It provides 9 calories per gram. Protein and carbs, they only provide 4.
So fat is more than double the energy cost of protein or carbs for the same weight.
More than double, exactly. So he flipped the script. He decided to experiment. He cut the added fats. No more nuts, no more pouring oil in the pan. And he switched to high-protein, high-volume foods.
Now, when you say high volume, we're talking about things that physically take up more space in your stomach for fewer calories.
Yes, precisely. He was eating things like potatoes cooked in an air fryer, so no oil added, and what he calls smash burgers made with 95% lean beef.
Wait, hold on a second. Burgers and fries? That sounds like the opposite of a diet. That sounds like a cheat day.
I know, it sounds like junk food, right?
Mm.
But you have to look at the matrix. A large potato is about 300 calories. That's roughly the same as that small handful of pistachios. But the potato is huge. It's got water, it's got fiber, it physically stretches the stomach lining.
And that stretching is a signal, isn't it? It sends a message to the brain.
It's a powerful one. There are mechanoreceptors in your stomach wall, and when they stretch, they tell your brain, hey, we are full down here. You eat the nuts, they take up almost no space, and 10 minutes later, you're looking for more food. You eat the potato and the lean beef, you are physically stuffed for hours.
So what happened? The results for him were pretty wild.
They were incredible. In 3.5 months, he dropped from 22% body fat all the way down to 13%.
Wow.
That is a massive drop. That is getting into athlete territory. And the key takeaway for me, the thing that makes this sustainable, was that he said he never felt deprived. He wasn't starving himself. He was just changing the density of his fuel. He was eating more food by volume than ever before.
So the lesson isn't fat is bad for your health. It's more like fat is expensive for your energy budget.
Precisely. It's a calibration issue. If your goal is specifically to lose body fat, that healthy olive oil drizzle might be the 500 calories that's keeping you stuck at maintenance.
Okay, speaking of extreme dietary shifts, let's talk about Vinny Lingham. Because his protocol makes the smash burger diet look like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Yeah.
We're talking about the carnivore elimination protocol.
Yeah, this is a really fascinating case study because Vinny wasn't primarily trying to lose weight. He was trying to solve a serious medical mystery.
He was suffering from severe neuropathy, right?
Yes. Numbness, tingling, a loss of sensation in his arms. I mean, that is a terrifying symptom. It usually suggests some kind of nerve damage or a severe systemic issue.
And being an engineer, he approached it like an engineer. He started tracking the data.
He did. He noticed a pattern. These flare-ups weren't random. They happened almost immediately after he ate very specific foods. Specifically, fried chicken or a really fatty grain-fed steak.
So he suspected it wasn't the meat itself, but maybe something about the fat attached to it.
Specifically, the type of fat. He zeroed in on omega-6 seed oils, soybean oil, corn oil, canola oil. These are the industrial oils used in almost all fried foods and processed goods.
Yeah, and for some people, those can be a real problem.
A huge problem. For a significant portion of the population, these oils can be highly inflammatory. They oxidize very easily in the body, which creates free radicals and cellular stress.
So he decided to go nuclear.
He went full elimination, a complete reset. For 3 months, he ate nothing but beef, eggs, and butter.
Nothing else.
Nothing, no vegetables, no fruit, no sauces, no nuts, no spices even, just the absolute basics.
That's socially difficult to pull off.
Oh, it's a nightmare for your social life. Try going to a restaurant and ordering just a plain burger patty with a side of butter. But physically, the results were just undeniable. His neuropathy completely vanished.
And we have the blood data to back it up, which is what we love to see.
I always love the blood data. He tracked a marker called HSCRP. That stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. It's the gold standard for measuring systemic low-grade inflammation in the body.
And what's a normal number for that? What are you aiming for?
Ideally, you want it to be under 1. Definitely under 1. Anything over 3 is considered a high risk for cardiovascular issues, and it basically indicates your body is constantly fighting something.
And Vinny was at?
He was sitting at a 4.5.
Yikes. So his body was on fire, basically.
It was in a constant state of panic. After just a few months on the carnivore protocol, he dropped to under 2. By stripping out the seed oils and any potential plant triggers, he cooled off his entire system.
It really frames food as information, doesn't it? It wasn't just calories in, calories out for him. He was feeding his body inflammatory data, and his body was just screaming back at him.
Exactly. And for him, the reset required that extreme simplicity. It's not that everyone needs to eat only beef forever, but as an elimination tool to find your specific trigger, it's incredibly powerful.
Okay, now, since we are talking about protein, eating all that beef, we have to touch on a myth that I think most of us fall for. This is the utilizable protein myth. This comes from Dr. Paul Moken's research.
Oh, this is one of those things that once you hear it, you can't unsee it on the nutrition label. It changes how you read everything.
So what's the idea?
We are trained to look at the back of a package, see 20 grams of protein, and think, great, I banked 20 grams, done.
Right. And it doesn't matter if it's from a steak, a bowl of lentils, or some processed protein bar. 20 is 20.
But Dr. Mohan's research shows that the body just doesn't work that way. He talks about something called the DIARAS score, the digestible indispensable amino acid score.
That is a mouthful. Give me the layman's version of that.
Think of it like a currency exchange rate. It's the best analogy.
Okay, I like that.
Let's say 20 grams is the price tag on the label. If you eat 20 grams of protein from beef or eggs or whey protein, the exchange rate is really, really good. It's almost 1-to-1. Your body can absorb and utilize nearly all of that amino acid profile. The bioavailability is high.
But if I get that same 20 grams from a plant source,
If it comes from, say, wheat or peas or even soy to some extent, the exchange rate is much lower. You might be paying 20 grams, but your body only actually receives maybe 12 or 14 grams of usable material.
why is that? What's blocking it?
It's because of the structure of plant fibers and what are sometimes called anti-nutrients, like phytates, that can bind to minerals and amino acids and prevent them from being absorbed in the gut.
There was a specific clinical study about this that was kind of heartbreaking, actually.
The study from the Netherlands, yes. They looked at institutionalized elderly people. These are people who are already highly prone to sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting.
Right, which is a huge cause of falls and frailty.
Exactly. It's a major factor in losing independence. So the nutritionists at this facility were planning their meals very carefully.
They were trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely. They planned the meals to hit specific protein targets to prevent this muscle loss. On paper, their spreadsheet said, these patients are eating enough protein. The math checked out.
But the reality was different.
The reality was they were still losing muscle. They were still wasting away. They were malnourished in terms of amino acids.
Wow.
When the researchers went back and applied the DIAS score correction, when they looked at what was actually making it into the bloodstream versus what was on the plate, the patients were significantly under-eating usable protein.
That is a huge wake-up call. Because if you were relying on a lot of lower bioavailability protein, like if you're trying to be plant-based or you just eat a lot of processed bars, you might think you're building muscle, but you could actually be starving it.
It means you have to do the math differently. If you were relying on plants for your protein, you might need to consume 30 or even 40% more total protein just to get the same net effect as the animal protein.
Yeah.
You have to overshoot the goal significantly.
Okay, let's pivot slightly. We've talked a lot about what goes in fats, proteins, but Dr. Sarah Gottfried brings up a critical point about what needs to go out. Specifically, the relationship between fiber and our hormones.
This is so crucial for anyone, but especially for women dealing with what Dr. Gottfried calls estrogen dominance.
Right.
We tend to think of fiber as just, the plumbing nutrient. It keeps you regular. It's kind of boring.
It's definitely the least sexy nutrient.
Yeah,
Nobody's
yeah.
marketing a high-fiber energy drink.
No, they're not. But Dr. Gottfried frames fiber as a critical detoxification technology. Here is the mechanism. Your liver is your primary filter. It's constantly pulling excess estrogen and other toxins out of your blood.
Okay.
It then packages them up into bile and dumps them into your gut to be pooped out.
Simple enough. Taking out the trash.
But there is a catch. There's a specific type of bacteria that can live in the gut, and it produces an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase.
It sounds like a comic book villain.
He kind of acts like one. This enzyme's job is to unpackage the estrogen that the liver just bundled up. It basically breaks the lock on the trash bag. So if you don't have enough fiber in your gut to grab that estrogen and rush it out of the body, the estrogen just gets reabsorbed right back into your bloodstream through the gut wall.
So you are literally recycling your own hormonal waste.
Exactly. You aren't clearing it, you are recirculating it. And that leads to that feeling of hormonal chaos, the bloating, the mood swings, the heavy periods, all the symptoms of estrogen dominance.
So fiber is the transport truck that gets the trash out of the city before someone can rip the bags open.
It's the containment unit. It binds to that waste and carries it out before the enzyme can unlock it.
And the numbers here are just staggering regarding how much we should be eating versus how much we actually are.
Yeah, Dr. Gottfried notes that hunter-gatherer populations ate something like 100 grams of fiber a day.
100 grams.
They were eating roots, tubers, fibrous stalks, leaves, all day long. Their gut was a fiber processing machine.
And what are we eating today? What's the average?
The average modern woman eats about 14 grams. 14.
Wow. So we are operating at like, what, 15% of our evolutionary capacity for detoxification?
And we wonder why hormonal issues are skyrocketing. The fix is simple, but it's not easy. Get that number up to 35 to 50 grams a day consistently.
That is a lot of broccoli. It's a conscious effort.
It is. It's a dedicated effort every single day, but your hormones absolutely depend on it.
Okay, before we leave the nutrition section, I want to hit one specific supplement. Dr. Shivani Gupta calls this the janitor. We're talking about curcumin.
Yes, but let's be really clear here. We are not talking about the turmeric powder in your spice rack.
Which I learned the hard way. I used to just sprinkle turmeric on my eggs in the morning thinking I was curing all inflammation in my body.
It tastes good and it's not hurting anything, but it's not medicinal at that dose, and it's very, very hard for the body to absorb on its own.
Right.
Dr. Gupta is talking about high-potency, bioavailable curcumin supplements, often formulated with things like black pepper extract or lipids to increase absorption.
And she describes it as a janitor for senescent cells. I love that term.
It's a great visual.
These are the zombie cells, right?
Right. They're cells that become old and damaged, so they stop dividing, but they refuse to die. They just hang around in your tissues.
And they cause trouble.
Big trouble. They secrete inflammatory signals that damage and age the healthy cells around them. They basically recruit other cells to become zombies. Curcumin acts as a senolytic. It helps the body identify and clear them out. It's the janitor cleaning up the zombie mess.
And this isn't just some theoretical anti-aging stuff. We have a great real-world example in the stack from Karen Martell.
Yeah, Karen suffers from chronic migraines. She had tried everything. She found that taking a high dose of a good curcumin supplement was the only thing that could actually touch the pain and reduce the frequency.
And Dr. Gupta uses it for acute injuries too, right?
Yeah.
Like instead of reaching for the ibuprofen.
Yes, for things like ankle sprains, which is a perfect segue, actually, because in a minute, we're going to talk about why that ibuprofen might be the worst thing for your ankle. But first, let's move to section 2, physiology and fitness. Let's do it.
I think we need to update our mental model of why we exercise. Because this concept of exerkines from Dr. Ben Bickman, it kind of blew my mind.
It fundamentally changes the definition of a muscle. It's a huge shift. We used to think muscles were just pulleys, simple machines. They contract, they pull on a bone, we move, simple physics. We burn calories to do the work. End of story.
But Dr. Bickman says muscle is an endocrine organ.
Yes, it's a gland, just like your thyroid or your pancreas or your adrenal glands. When you contract a muscle, whether you're lifting a weight or sprinting or even just going for a walk, that muscle releases hundreds of different chemical messengers into your bloodstream.
And these are the exerkines.
Right. They're also called myokines. He used the term extracellular vesicles, or ECVs.
That sounds very technical.
Think of them as little cargo ships or biological Amazon packages. A 2018 study in the journal Cell Metabolism showed that just 1 hour of cycling released over 300 different types of these proteins into the blood.
And where do they go? They don't just stay in the leg that was cycling?
That's the magic. They home in on specific targets all over the body. They travel to the liver, to your fat cells, to your pancreas, to your brain.
And what are they carrying in those packages?
They contain genetic instructions, literally pieces of microRNA that tell the liver to become more sensitive to insulin and process glucose better. They travel to the brain and tell it to produce BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor that helps you grow new neurons.
So you're telling me when I'm doing squats, my quad muscles are literally writing code and shipping it to my liver and brain?
You are sending a system-wide software update. That's the perfect way to put it. It explains why exercise protects against diseases that seemingly have nothing to do with muscles like Alzheimer's or fatty liver disease. You aren't just burning calories. You are signaling survival and optimization to the entire organism. Your muscles are talking to every other organ.
That is such a more powerful motivator than just, I'm trying to burn off that donut I ate.
100%. I'm updating my firmware. Feels a lot more essential than I'm burning off lunch.
Now, speaking of system updates, we have a very, very specific warning for anyone on hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. This comes from Dr. Tina Moore.
Dr. Moore is fantastic because she is so candid and blunt. She calls herself a former carb piggy.
Last I saw that. She's very honest about her own struggles with it.
Her rule is stark, and she does not mince words. If you are on HRT, you must strength train. She says it is non-negotiable.
Why is that connection so strong? I would have thought HRT was supposed to fix hormonal issues, not create new ones that you have to manage.
It fixes the deficiencies for sure, but hormones, particularly progesterone, are incredibly powerful. They can induce a transient state of insulin resistance.
What does that mean?
It means for a short time, your cells don't respond to insulin as well, so sugar hangs around in your blood longer. It makes sense evolutionarily. If you were pregnant, which involves very high progesterone, you'd want to hang on to blood sugar for the growing baby. You want to store energy efficiently.
But if you aren't pregnant and you're just taking HRT as a woman in perimenopause or menopause,
You just get the blood sugar spikes and the belly fat. Dr. Moore found that when her progesterone dose was just a little too high, she gained visceral fat around her middle despite eating clean. She realized she needed what she calls a glucose sink.
a place to dump all that extra sugar.
Exactly. And that sink is muscle.
Okay, that makes sense.
Muscle tissue is the primary disposal site for glucose in the body. Roughly 80% of the glucose you eat from a meal ends up stored in your muscles as glycogen. If you have more muscle, you have a bigger tank to dump that excess energy into.
So it mops it up before it can be stored as fat.
Yes. If you take HRT but you stay sedentary, you are pouring high-octane fuel into a car that is just parked in the garage. You're going to flood the engine and spill fuel all over the floor.
You have to earn the hormones with the iron.
That is perfectly put. You absolutely do.
Okay, this next point. Bone density banking. This is the one that really scared me the most, especially as a parent. This is from Dr. Andy Galpin.
This is the heavy hitter of the section for sure. It's one of those things that really reframes your timeline. We tend to worry about osteoporosis when we're 60 or 70, but Dr. Galpin's data shows that the game is won or lost decades before that.
He talks about a critical window for female bone health.
A very specific and very short critical window, and that window is roughly between the ages of 7 and 12.
7 and 12.
Pre-puberty and early puberty.
That is so young. At that age, most kids are just, playing video games or sitting in class.
It is terrifyingly young. During this phase, the body is laying down the structural matrix of the bone. The osteoblasts, the bone-building cells, are hyperactive in response to hormonal signals. And the data shows that a woman's peak bone mass, which predicts her fracture risk in her 40s, 50s, and beyond, is largely correlated with her activity levels during those specific childhood years.
So if a girl is sedentary at age 10,
she is effectively capping her bone potential for life. You can't really catch up later. You cannot grow significant new bone density after your early 30s. After that, you can only slow the rate of loss. You're just trying to maintain what you have.
so it's like a bank account where you can only make deposits until you're 30, and then for the rest of your life, you're only making withdrawals.
That is the perfect analogy. And if you didn't make a big enough deposit when you're 10, you're going to go bankrupt when you're 70. And in this case, bankruptcy means fractures, hip replacements, and a total loss of mobility and independence.
So what is the actionable advice here for parents? Is it just go play outside more?
It needs to be more specific than that. Dr. Galpin is very clear. Swimming doesn't count for this. Cycling doesn't count.
Why not? Those are great exercises.
They're great for cardio, but they are non-impact. The bone needs to feel what's called axial loading. It needs the thud of landing. The mechanical stress,
So jumping.
jumping, running, gymnastics, soccer, basketball, tennis, any sport that involves impact. That mechanical stress is the signal that tells the bone to lay down a thicker, stronger, more resilient matrix.
To use the phrase engineer activity, don't just hope it happens.
You have to. You have to build it into their lives because the feedback loop is 30 years long. It is the ultimate delayed gratification metric.
Right, that's heavy. Let's move to section 3. Recovery and tissue health. We've sent the software updates. Now we need to fix the machine. And we are going to get very physical here,
Very physical.
starting with something called the gut smash, which just sounds violent.
It's definitely less violent than it sounds, but it is intense. This comes from Jill Miller, who is a fascia expert.
Okay, describe the protocol for us. What does one do?
You take a soft, air-filled ball. She has one she calls a Corgus ball. It's about the size of a small melon or a large grapefruit. You lie face down on the floor, and you place the ball right under your abdomen,
So the ball is pressing right into your stomach.
right into your guts. And you just breathe deeply and let your body weight sink into it. You are mechanically manipulating the rectus sheath, which is the fascia of your abs, and all the organs that live underneath.
Why on earth would I want to do that? That sounds deeply uncomfortable.
It is a little uncomfortable at first, for sure, but that's kind of the point. There are two big reasons. One is mechanical mobilization. If you're stressed, your gut tightens up. It literally stops moving properly. We hold tension in our abdomen just like we do in our shoulders.
And that can cause problems.
Yeah, it can cause things like stress-induced constipation.
Yeah.
The smash mechanically frees things up and gets the tissue moving again.
Okay, and the second reason?
The vagus nerve. This is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and digest mode. The vagus nerve wanders all through the abdomen. By applying this deep, gentle pressure and breathing against it, you are manually stimulating the vagus nerve.
You're forcing your body to switch off the fight or flight response.
You are. It's like a manual override button for anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's located right around your belly button. It forces the diaphragm to unlock, your breathing deepens, and your whole system just calms down.
Okay. Keeping on the theme of mechanical inputs, we are moving from the belly down to the pelvis. We have to talk about vibrators.
Yes, we do.
But, and this is important, Laura Pack and Dr. Kelly Casperson are not talking about them as sex toys. They're talking about them as medical devices for tissue health.
This is such an important reframe. We usually categorize vibrators under pleasure, or we giggle about it and get embarrassed. But for women, especially post-menopause, there is a very serious medical condition called genitourinary syndrome of menopause.
Okay, and what happens physiologically with that?
The tissues of the vagina and vulva begin to atrophy. They thin out, they get dry, they lose elasticity, and they become painful. Sex becomes painful. Even just sitting can be uncomfortable. It happens because of a lack of blood flow and hormonal support as estrogen drops.
So where does vibration come in?
Dr. Casperson argues that we need to view vibration as a form of physical therapy.
Like doing reps for the tissue.
That's a perfect way to think about it. They cite research by Dr. Alexandra Dubinskaya that shows the vibration stimulates blood flow and neural activity in the tissue. It oxygenates the area. It wakes it up.
So it prevents the atrophy from setting in.
It helps maintain tissue integrity and function. The analogy they use is simple and brilliant. You exercise your biceps to keep them functional. Why wouldn't you exercise your pelvic tissues to keep them functional? It's a classic case of use it or lose it.
That makes total sense when you strip away the cultural stigma. It's just blood flow.
It's just vascularization and neural stimulation. That's it.
Speaking of blood flow and healing, let's destroy a sacred cow. Dr. Victoria Mazes says we need to stop doing our ICE.
Oh, this one hurts. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. It is drilled into us from the moment we first get injured as kids. Sprained ankle, get the ice bag, put it up, don't move.
And she says this is just wrong.
She says it is counterproductive to healing. And to understand why, we have to ask, what is inflammation, really?
We usually think it's the enemy, right? The thing to be stopped. We take pills to stop it.
Right, and chronic systemic inflammation is the enemy. That's the stuff that causes heart disease and autoimmune issues. But acute inflammation, that hot, red, painful swelling you get right after an injury, that's the construction crew showing up for work.
The first responders.
Exactly. Your body is rushing white blood cells, macrophages, and fluid to the site to clear out the damaged tissue and lay down new collagen to repair the tear.
And if you put ice on it.
You put up a roadblock, you constrict all the blood vessels, you literally send the construction crew home. You numb the pain, sure, so you feel better in the moment, but you are delaying the actual repair process. You're blunting the body's natural healing signal.
So RICE is out. What is the new acronym? I heard it's a bit longer.
It is. It's a two-parter. PEACE and LOVE.
Okay, that's a lot to remember. Let's walk through it. PECE comes first for the immediate aftermath.
Right. P is protect. Don't make the injury worse for a day or two. E is elevate gravity, help to drain the excess fluid. A is the big one. Avoid anti-inflammatories.
So no Advil, no ibuprofen.
Correct. No NSAIDs. Again, you want that inflammation to do its job. Taking them can blunt the healing signal. C is compress. Use a bandage to manage the swelling without totally stopping blood flow. And E is educate. Know that your body has the capacity to heal itself. Trust the process.
And then comes the LOVE part. This is the active part of recovery.
Exactly, after the first few days. L is load. Start moving the joint again as soon as you can safely. Let pain be your guide, but don't immobilize it for weeks. O is optimism. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but your brain controls your pain perception. If you fear the injury, it will hurt more. V is vascularization. Get blood moving to the area. Do cardio that doesn't hurt the injury. And E is exercise.
So it's active recovery. Don't freeze it. Use it.
That's the new paradigm. Trust the body's construction crew. Don't lock the gate on them.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Section 4, rewiring the mindset. We've optimized the hardware. Let's look at the software running on it. And we have to start with Mel Robbins and the high five habit.
I know what you're thinking. I know what everyone listening is thinking.
It sounds so cheesy. It sounds like an SNL skit, high-fiving yourself in the mirror. I feel like if I did that, I would just burst out laughing at how ridiculous I look.
It scores very, very high on the cringe meter, and Mel Robbins is the first person to admit that. But the mechanism behind it, though, is surprisingly robust and based in neuroscience.
But what's the instruction?
The instruction is simple. Immediately after brushing your teeth, you look at yourself in the mirror, you raise your hand, and you high-five your reflection.
And no negative self-talk allowed while you do it.
That is the critical rule. What happens is a pattern interrupt. For most of us, there's a trigger. We see our face in the mirror first thing in the morning, and the default network in our brain starts listing all our flaws.
I look tired. My skin is bad. I'm getting old. I have so much I have to do today, and I'm already behind.
It's a habit of self-rejection. We literally start the day by bullying ourselves. By physically raising your hand and high-fiving the glass, you short-circuit that negative loop.
Cow.
You have a lifetime of positive neural associations with a high five. Since you were a kid, a high five meant good job, we're a team, I've got your back, let's go. You are mapping that entire neural network of support and celebration onto yourself.
Mel's story about her husband really sold me on this, because he seems like a regular skeptical guy.
Yeah, totally. Her husband was dealing with a deep, dark depression. He hated the high five concept. He thought it was the stupidest thing he had ever heard. But he was desperate, so he agreed to try it for just 5 days.
Yeah.
And he told her that after a few days, for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was looking at an enemy in the mirror. He felt a sense of partnership with himself.
That is profound. Just from a simple physical gesture, changing the neural pathway.
It changes the relationship from critic to teammate.
Yeah.
And you physically cannot think a negative thought while you in the act of high-fiving. Try it. It's cognitively dissonant. Your brain can't do both at once.
She also gives us the 5-second rule.
This is her tool for the hesitation gap.
Mm-hmm.
You know you need to get out of bed or send that important email or put on your running shoes, but you just feel frozen.
The procrastination paralysis. We've all been there.
It's that moment where your brain starts making excuses. The trick is to count backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then physically move. No thinking, just move.
Why backwards? Why not just count up 1, 2, 3?
That's the key. If you count up 1, 2, 3, your brain knows you can just keep going forever. 4, 5, 100. There is no end point, no urgency. Counting backwards has a terminal point. 1 is the end of the line. Also, counting backwards requires a tiny bit of focus. It engages your prefrontal cortex, the logical executive part of your brain, and it temporarily shuts down the amygdala and basal ganglia, which are the parts of the brain that generate excuses, fear, and autopilot behaviors.
So it's a manual override for your own internal autopilot of procrastination.
Exactly. We have a great story in the notes about a woman named Steph. She was in a deep depression, literally could not get out of bed. She started using the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule just to put her feet on the floor.
Just that one small movement.
That was the only goal. But that one tiny bit of momentum built up day after day. She eventually got off her meds, she quit a toxic job she hated, and she used the rule to force herself to apply for a dream job working with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, and she got it.
Wow. All starting with a 5-second countdown to get out of bed.
It's simple, but it is not easy. It just bridges that huge gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it.
Let's talk about anxiety in a different context. Dating. This comes from Sabrina Zohar.
This is relevant for anyone with anxiety, honestly, not just people on dating apps. She has a brilliant framework. State, then story, then strategy.
Okay, walk us through it. This feels like a protocol for overthinkers.
It is. It's an emergency brake for an anxious mind. Let's use her example. You text someone you're dating, and they don't reply for 3 hours. Immediately, your heart starts racing. Your palms get sweaty. Your stomach is in knots. That is your state. Your nervous system is dysregulated.
So step 1 isn't text them again. Step 1 is fix the body.
Correct. That is the crucial first step. Put the phone down, go do a gut smash, go for a walk, do some box breathing, get your nervous system back to neutral. Her rule is, do not make decisions while your heart rate is over 120. Once you are calm, then and only then do you move to story.
This is the narrative we invent in our heads. They hate me, they're with someone else, I said something stupid.
Right. And from your now calm state, you challenge that story. Is it actually true? Do I have any evidence? Or is it more likely that they are just in a meeting at work? You rewrite the story from a place of logic, not panic.
And finally, strategy.
Strategy is the action you take. If you are calm, and the more logical story is they are likely just busy, then the correct strategy is do nothing. Wait.
It prevents the self-destruct sequence where you send the "Are you mad at me?" text, which never ever helps.
Never. It just inserts a critical pause between the emotional trigger and the behavioral reaction.
Sabrina also dropped a bomb about the feeling of butterflies.
Oh, this hurt to hear. It really did. We all grew up watching movies where getting butterflies in your stomach means you found true love.
And she says, not so much.
She had this realization that for her, the butterflies, that anxious, jittery, sick excitement she would feel on a first date, wasn't love, it was familiar trauma.
What does that mean?
She was subconsciously chasing emotionally unavailable people because the anxiety they created in her felt like home to her nervous system. It was a familiar pattern from her childhood. Calm, stable, and secure felt boring and foreign to her.
So love at first sight might just be trauma recognition.
For some people, yes. It can be a warning sign of dysregulation, not necessarily a soulmate connection. Real safety feels calm, not chaotic.
There's a massive reframe. All right, we are in the home stretch. Section 5, Advanced Biohacking and Technology. We're getting into the molecules and the machines now.
This is for the optimizers who really want to tweak the machinery.
Let's talk about boosting NAD+ off. First, what is it and why should we care?
NAD+ is a coenzyme that's found in every single cell in your body. It's absolutely crucial for mitochondrial function, for turning food into cellular energy. It runs your cellular batteries. As we age, our NAD+ levels plummet, and our cellular energy just crashes.
And the idea is we can boost it back up.
Right. Dr. Charles Brenner, who is a biochemist who discovered the pathway, recommends supplementing with a precursor called nicotinamide riboside, or NR, to boost those levels back up. But there's a huge, huge caveat here involving, of all things, red wine. Or rather, a compound in red wine.
You mean resveratrol?
Exactly. This is a crucial interaction that the biohacking community completely missed for a while. There was a study on patients with peripheral artery disease, a condition where you have poor circulation in your legs. The study showed that taking NR significantly improved their walking distance. It worked.
Okay, good.
BUT, if they combined the NR with resveratrol, which is often sold as an anti-aging partner to NAD+ supplements, the benefits were totally canceled out.
It completely negated the effect.
Completely. The group taking both NR and resveratrol saw zero improvement. They were no better than the placebo group.
Why? I thought resveratrol was this miracle molecule.
It's complex, but it seems they likely compete for the same enzymes or pathways in a way that blocks the benefit of NR. It's just a stark warning against kitchen sink biohacking. Just because two things are individually good doesn't mean they play nice together. You can over-optimize yourself right back to zero.
Okay, also quickly, red light therapy. This comes from Dr. Artie Whitten. These panels are everywhere now.
They are. People are buying them like crazy. But Dr. Whitten warns that dosing matters immensely. It follows what's called a biphasic dose-response curve.
Meaning more is not always better. In fact, more can be worse.
Exactly. Think of it like the sun. A little bit of sun creates vitamin D. Too much gives you a sunburn. With red light, if you want to treat deep tissue or bones or stimulate stem cells, you generally need high power, the big, powerful panels. But if you are treating your face for anti-aging,
You want less power.
much less. You want low intensity. He says if you blast your face with a high-power panel that was designed for deep muscle, you can actually damage the skin, degrade the collagen, and lose facial fat volume over time.
So you can biohack yourself into looking older if you do it wrong.
Yes, you can. Distance and dosage are critical. Don't just buy the strongest light you can find and sit 2 inches away from it.
Last one before we wrap up. Peptides. Specifically oral peptides.
This is from Kyle Vander Leest. He discusses a popular one called BPC 157. This is often called the Wolverine peptide because of its reputation for healing, especially for the gut lining and other tissues. Usually it's injected, but the oral form is stable in stomach acid and works specifically on the gut.
But there is a vital rule about taking it with enzymes.
A vital rule. Peptides are just short chains of amino acids. They're basically very, very small proteins. You cannot take oral peptides with food or with digestive enzymes.
Why not? What happens?
Because if you take them with enzymes, your stomach just says, oh, look, protein. And it digests it. It breaks it down into its constituent amino acids. It stops being a signaling molecule, which is the medicine, and it just becomes a very expensive snack.
You have to take them on an empty stomach.
Completely empty stomach, so they can survive long enough to be absorbed intact and act as signaling molecules.
Incredible. We have covered so much ground. I mean, from smash burgers to high-fiving mirrors to peptide timing, my head is spinning a little.
It's a dense stack, a very dense stack.
If you had to pull out a single common thread that ties all of this together, what would it be?
Proactivity. I think that's it. None of this is passive. You have to choose to count backwards from 5. You have to choose to lift weights to bank bone density for your future self. You have to choose to question your anxious story. It's all about actively intervening in your own biology and psychology.
And maybe realizing that the standard operating procedure, eat healthy fats without thinking, ice your ankle, wait for motivation to strike, it might just be wrong, or at least incomplete.
The body keeps the score, and the game is very, very long.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought, a final question.
Yeah.
We talked about exerkines, the idea that your muscles are sending messages to the future of your body. And we talked about bone banking, how a 10-year-old is preparing her skeleton for her 40s and beyond.
It's the concept of delayed gratification biology.
Exactly. So if our biology is in many ways a 30-year delayed gratification system, what are you doing today, right now, that you will be thanking yourself for in the year 2056?
Or what are you doing that you'll be cursing yourself for?
That is the question.
It is.
On that note, go high-five a mirror, maybe skip the extra handful of pistachios, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
Take care, everyone.